There are a ton of options when it comes to learning how to code. So how do you pick the right program for you? Let me help you break down some variables that I think you should pay attention to. Everyone has different circumstances and learning styles, so different coding schools will work for different people. So in this video, I wanted to look at some of the things that you should consider before committing to a coding program. Before we get into it, I wanted to thank Lambda School for sponsoring this video. If you haven't heard of Lambda yet, they're an amazing school that's rethinking coding education. They provide their students with a live, immersive learning experience that prepares them for a role in technology. And their tuition plan is pretty awesome, where students don't have to pay anything up front until they get a role that pays them over $50,000. And that is pretty amazing and promotes diversity in technology, which I absolutely love. I'll tell you all about it later in the video and interview a Lambda alumni to learn more about their experience. Find out more about Lambda School using the link in my description. Picking a coding program can be an overwhelming process. I mean, there's just so much to learn and so many different resources and course providers. So let's take a step back and break it down into steps, looking at the different variables you should consider when making your decision when picking a coding program that works for you. Step number 1 is deciding what is it that you want to learn. Explore the different directions and professions that are out there because different career paths will require different types of skills. For example, data science is different from full stack development, and so are the different career paths within cybersecurity. Explore what's out there and narrow it down to a few professions that are the most interesting to you, the ones that stand out and sound like something that you would be enjoying on a day-to-day basis. I highly recommend finding people in those roles, in those different roles that you have narrowed it down to, and following them on social media because there are a ton of people out there sharing their daily experiences, daily wins, daily struggles, daily challenges, all that stuff, like what it looks like in those specific professions. So follow them to see what it's like. And also, I'm sure they would be super happy to answer any of your questions and also maybe even share some tips and point you in the direction of certain resources where you can learn more about the profession. All of this information will help you make a decision on what career trajectory is right for you. And making that decision is crucial to understanding what it is that you want to learn, because based on what profession you'll be doing, the skills will probably differ. And obviously that will dictate what kind of syllabus you will be looking for in a program to build your skills in that area. So make sure that you understand what skills are required by that role so that you can look out for them in the different syllabuses that you are considering. Step number 2 is deciding what are your goals for learning how to code. Great, so now you know what you want to learn. Now let's look at your goals and decide why you want to learn what you want to learn. Right, so are you simply trying to add something to your resume, and that's how I got into coding, or are you trying to make a career switch and go into technology? This part is very important to think through because different goals will require different levels of commitment in terms of both time and money. It also determines what kinds of features and resources you'll be looking for in a coding program, including its length. For example, if you're trying to switch careers and go into technology, you want to make sure that the program enables you to not only learn coding skills properly, but also work on projects from start to finish. Of course, this consideration will also impact how long the program should be, because let's be realistic here. Programming is hard and you're not going to be able to magically change careers after 4 weeks of intensive training. Finally, it's important to find a school that will help you build up your portfolio and support you through this career transition. For example, Lambda has a team of expert career coaches and job search trainers that will help you source, interview, and land a job once you're ready. Step number 3 is understanding your learning styles. Different people have different learning styles, and I can't stress enough the importance of understanding your learning style. Are you a visual learner? Do you prefer to consume information, and is it the easiest to digest in a video format? text, audio, or is it by building things that you really start understanding different concepts? Understanding your learning style is very important here because that will help you look at the different coding programs in front of you through a prism of user experience to see if their features are catering to the learning style that you have. So essentially understanding whether this would be a great program that will enable you to learn faster. Well, maybe not faster, but more effectively. That's what we're looking for. Step number 4 is reflecting on what motivates you. I see motivation factors as a build-on the learning styles. It's that next level. Those are the factors that bring you back to your table, to your office, to your learning, to your program when things get tough. For example, certain people are more motivated when they have a community of fellow learners. For some, it's the collaboration aspect of having a community, while some are motivated by the competition. Live programs versus on-demand or pre-recorded lessons. That's another factor that could motivate you here. Reflect on what works for you, what motivates you, and look out for those aspects in the programs. And step number 5 is monetary considerations. This is obviously a big one because not everyone can easily invest in a computer science degree, unless of course you don't find the idea of student debt daunting. So picking something that works for your current financial situation is crucial because obviously this will have consequences. I'm sure you've considered this variable before as it's a pretty obvious one. And this is why I love Lambda's tuition plan, which I will talk more later in the video, but basically they waive the tuition fees until you get hired after the program and make at least $50,000. If your goal throughout this whole process is to transition into a technical role or career direction, then you should focus on building your skills and your portfolio to become job ready. Employers are looking for candidates who know what they're doing, and unfortunately, shorter boot camps don't provide that kind of experience and knowledge. Trust me, I know that from personal experience. Yes, they help you build up certain skills and give you a general understanding of how things work, but a lot of the times, these courses alone are not enough to prepare you for a job. And you would need additional experience working on projects, building up your skills and your portfolio. This is what I really like about Lambda School, whose goal is to prepare their students to be valuable members of the team from day one at a new job. They're doing things differently, offering programs that are distinct from a university degree or a boot camp, focusing on the outcomes, namely on your job readiness. They offer education in 2 career paths, data science and full stack development. And their programs give you a much more in-depth experience with various modern coding languages. And there are 4 tuition plan options, one of them being an ISA, where you graduate and get hired earning at least $50,000. And this is huge because it opens up coding career opportunities to people who can't afford the upfront costs associated with a university degree or a boot camp. So let's learn more about Lambda School and how their programs work from someone who has taken them. I got to interview a Lambda alumni about her experiences, and here's what she had to say. Hi, Casey, how are you?
Hi, Masha. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. Super excited to hear all about Lambda School and your experience there. So, what was your background before Lambda School, and what do you do these days?
So before Lambda School, I had kind of slowly worked my way through some community college, trying to pick up like general education. I got a couple of associate degrees in humanities, and besides that, I was working as a tutor and at a movie theater. So I went through the Lambda School curriculum after trying out coding a little bit, seeing if that was something that I could do for 40 hours a week. So an opportunity ended up opening up at Lambda School in the admissions department. Basically, just we were getting so many new applications that they really needed to expand the team. And at the end of the day, I just had fallen in love more with Lambda School than I had with coding. So even though it wasn't a totally technical role, it did give me like the ability to work with the teams that they needed to kind of come together. So I'm kind of like in a liaison role in some ways.
That's awesome. And why did you decide? Because from what I understand, you were kind of exploring the coding world and what's out there. Why did you decide to go with Lambda?
So a big reason was the ISA model. I applied back in 2018, and I think at that time Lambda School was the only one that had the ISA. And I was in a financial position where I was living in an RV. I was trying to support my mom who has some health issues. On basically like working part-time. So the combination of like not having the tuition be upfront, the depth of the curriculum that I had read about seemed like it gave me a lot of options, was really versatile. And it was still really fast because I only had like that year and a half before I had to start working part-time or something just to be able to make ends meet for us. And like looking at the reviews online was really important to me at that time. We did not have any graduates yet, so I was relying mostly on how the curriculum was going for most people. I also have a tendency to kind of look into why I shouldn't make a certain decision when I make big decisions like this. So I went on social media and kind of looked for people who were skeptical of the program or who had like certain problems with the program. And at that time, Austin, the CEO, was really involved with responding to messages like that and kind of giving his side of the story, explaining why things worked a certain way or were set up a certain way. And for me, I was really having to put my trust into this company. And he gave me the impression that he was not trying to blow smoke or like trick people. So I felt that I could trust the people that were building this program.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you really did your research and you knew what you're going into. So
Yes, absolutely.
what was your favorite part of the program?
So I really enjoyed the curriculum, learning how to build things. The part of it that was probably the best for me was the culture. The term boot camp really kind of made me nervous. I wasn't sure, especially with the ISA model requiring that we're successful in order for the company to be successful. I was a little worried that my priorities for my life weren't going to be considered, that it was going to be very harsh and just get through it and get the first job that comes along that is high enough to pay back the ISA. And it was absolutely the opposite. They were teaching us about the importance of taking breaks. They had just introduced what we call flexing now, where you can like repeat units if you've struggled to like really grasp that information that week. There was a lot of like openness about mental health support, like if you're feeling depressed or anxious, which was really important with the amount of people who are coming from backgrounds where you have a certain amount of just poverty related PTSD, that sort of thing. So that was extremely important to me, just knowing that I had a real support system and wasn't just kind of having information thrown at me to make someone else a profit. There was really a lot of focus from career coaches and job search training about like what are your personal goals, what do you need to make this career work for you, what part of coding are you passionate about, like what do you want your career to look like. And they were really like helping with all aspects of that job search experience, from just how do you write a cover letter properly, how do you set up your resume, down to how do you negotiate for the salary that you actually need and want. So
It's a supportive career like center is always just it elevates the program for everyone because at the end of the day your interests are aligned.
absolutely, yeah. And there's this real focus on like it's not success for us or for our students um, if it's not like a long-term solution, if it's not like a career that you can build on. um, so yeah, I was very pleased that that model has attracted people who are interested in actually helping people and not exploiting them.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on the, I know you've touched on this already, but what are your thoughts on the tuition plan? And from what I understand, there are multiple plans that are available to
Yeah, so we have the ISA, which is kind of like literally a lifesaver for me. California has certain regulations, so we offer the retail installment contract there. It's almost exactly the same as the ISA, but we're not allowed to change the cap rates for people. So under the ISA, you stop paying at 2 years, regardless of whether you've hit the $30,000 cap. But with the RIC, California just didn't want us charging different students different tuition rates. So the cap is at 30K. But we found like with California salaries, you're generally hitting that 30K cap anyway. You would have to go really under market not to hit that in 2 years. And then we also have upfront tuition that you can pay either all upfront or you can pay in installments. We typically see that from international students.
Yeah, that would make sense. And I've heard, and I guess it does make sense, that these flexible tuition plans really promote diversity because they make coding education more accessible to minority groups who normally wouldn't have access to it, just because, the upfront payment and all that stuff. So would you say that's true?
Yes, absolutely. We did a diversity report recently and found that compared to like traditional computer science degrees and programs, our demographics more closely mirror the demographics just of the United States. So you would see underrepresented minorities make up about 36% of the United States population. In computer science degrees, you're seeing 17% or sometimes single digit numbers. But we have 33% of our students at Lambda School are underrepresented minorities. So just like removing that barrier, first of all, really improves just access to the education. But what I've also seen is that you can't really stop there because it's one thing to get people in the door, but if they're not getting out of it and getting jobs and getting into tech, like that's not, meeting the goals of the student and the company. So it's really informed the way that we also work on the side of the funnel. So with outcomes, there is a problem with leaky funnels where we have, underrepresented minorities, women just kind of falling out at certain areas of the hiring pipeline. So we're looking at how do we change how hiring works for companies? How can we streamline that process? So one of the programs we have now, and I'm super jealous of it and wish that we had it when I was a student, is fellows, where instead of going and interviewing with a company or even having to submit an application, a hiring manager tells us that they need a software engineer. We send them someone who meets the skills that they need, and they work paid for 4 weeks with that company, which I think, it removes that anxiousness of how do I prove to this person in an interview setting that is nothing like the day-to-day work that I can do this work day to day. And it allows you to see the actual personality of this person. It's hard to get, I think, even a culture fit feel in an interview sometimes. I'm really excited about us being able to affect just hiring in tech that way. And it, even if the student doesn't end up getting hired by that company, they are still getting 4 weeks paid experience. Yeah, the other thing I just wanted to touch on is that since seeing that students had created kind of a supportive space to talk about like depression and anxiety and just the pressure of going through the program and trying to change their careers from all different walks of life, we've been able to implement modern health services, which is, we can connect students with a coach or a therapist or something that can kind of help them deal with issues that might otherwise like interrupt their ability to complete a program like this, might cause them to just give up and decide that this was too hard, the imposter syndrome is too much. Being able to get them actually like not just a supportive environment with their peers and their teachers, but also like professional advice and support that way as well.
I don't know, the fellow program, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but it sounds like something that I wish every university had, instead of exams, or any high school had instead of exams, because that does not represent, like how your skills yeah, there's so many thoughts on that, and it's a wonderful program. It sounds like, yeah, Lambda is really taking care of that funnel and making sure that that workforce is very diverse. And do you have any recommendations for any people who are potentially reviewing Lambda as an option for them for their to further their education, to change their careers, to go into technology?
Absolutely. There are a few things that I would recommend. So first of all, I know that a lot of people will consider a coding boot camp. At least I've seen this in people that come and apply to our school. They see that you don't necessarily need experience to start, and you can sometimes kind of skip that step of making sure that you really enjoy this, that this is a good fit for you. So we actually do have a free mini coding boot camp now that you can sign up for. It's 1 week projects. We're building a music visualizer this week. So that's available on the Lambda School website. But anything you can do to like take tutorials and just really explore the space, watch videos online, day in the life sort of things. That really helps a lot. You can come to events as well where we'll show you like a preview of a Lambda class. So we have Lambda preview, and then we have open house where we just take all kinds of questions to do with Lambda School and outcomes and that sort of thing. The third thing, just for considering any boot camp, is really think about the non-technical prep that you should be doing. I spent about 6 months just making sure that things in my life would be able to run smoothly with such a tough schedule. With especially like if you don't have a ton of experience coding previously, you might end up spending some time outside of class studying, and you want to make sure that things like meal prep is taken care of, or that you're not stressing your personal relationships because people in your life weren't expecting you to be unavailable, that sort of thing. And lastly, for Lambda specifically, again, remember as you're like saving up money or just planning out your schedule for the year, or whichever program you pick. If you pick full time, it's 6 months, and a year for part time. But make sure that you're budgeting time for that job hunt, budgeting for a program like Flex, where you might spend an extra couple of weeks or an extra month, making sure that you've really nailed down your concepts. And just for general emergencies, sometimes students will have to take a hiatus, and we want to make sure that that's being used for situations where like something is going on in your family, and not because you've run out of savings to be able to continue the program and now you're scrambling to make something work out for that. So yeah, just really making sure that you consider the non-technical prep as well as the technical prep.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of people don't take that into account. So that's super helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this interview in general. This was so much context, so much incredible information of what it's like from the inside. And I'm sure a lot of people got so much value out of this. And even if they don't go with Lambda, they will be more prepared for what's to come when they are furthering their education in technology. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I'm so glad to have been helpful. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, Casey, for sharing your experiences. I'm super excited to follow your journey and see where this new exciting career trajectory will take you. Find out more about Lambda School and their offerings using the link in my description. I hope this helps you with your decision of what coding program to choose. There are so many options out there, and I know that you will be able to find one that suits your individual, unique learning needs. Let me know in the comments what career direction you're interested in and what are your goals with learning technical skills. And if there are any other variables that you would recommend for people to consider when deciding on a coding program, please let me know in the comments as well. Like this video if you've enjoyed it, and share it with a friend who is currently trying to decide which coding program to go with. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, and we can also be friends on other social media. You can find me as Coding Blonde. Have a wonderful time the day you're currently experiencing. Bye.